gang. Hello! It has been quite some time now, and I do apologize, but we are back on the grind. I have a lot of exciting videos coming up for you guys within these next few months. A lot of exciting plans, but you know, I'm not gonna elongate the intro, so I'm just gonna get right into it. Obviously, by the title of this video, this is my 5th annual brother-sister trip with my brother, obviously. And we decided to do a little road trip. It was very, very, very impromptu. Little history for you guys. My brother and I, about 6 years ago, decided to promise each other that we would go on one trip with one another every year for the rest of our lives. And we would go somewhere different every time, do some different interesting things. The first year, we decided to go to Yosemite National Park, and we camped. We hiked a ton. That was such an amazing trip. And then the second year we decided to go to Sedona, Arizona. We went in February. Little did we know that going into Sedona, we were like, oh, it's gonna be hot. It's Arizona. Obviously, Arizona's like fuming hot. We obviously had no idea what we were getting ourselves into because it was absolutely like snowing and raining the entire time. It was blizzarding at one point in the Grand Canyon, and we were like, what the hell is going on? And then for our 3rd annual trip, we went to Hawaii, in Kauai. It was so amazing. We kind of went into the trip with absolutely no planning. We kind of just rented a car and drove, which ended up working out perfectly. I fell in love with Hawaii. And then our 4th trip, we did I wouldn't say it's a road trip because we didn't really drive, but we did a train trip through Europe. And we hit a few different countries. We did Switzerland, France, Italy, and I believe that's it. I do have a link on that in the description below if you guys want to watch that vlog. It's very fun. It was amazing. We spent New Year's in Paris when the ball dropped to the Eiffel Tower, when all glittery. It was beautiful. And that brings us to our 5th year. We unfortunately couldn't do one because of COVID last year, but we are finally back at it, and we decided to do a little road trip through Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, and a few other places. So if you guys don't know me and you don't watch me and you're just watching this video to get little tidbits of where to go and what to do, then I'm here to tell you that. If you watched me because you watch me, welcome back, and I hope you enjoy. I'm just gonna get right into it. So the whole entire reason we took this trip, obviously because it's our 5th trip together, but we wanted to check off my brother's last state, which was North Dakota. He has been to every other state, and he wanted to finally check off North Dakota, so we were like, all right, let's book a trip right now. We sat down on the computer, like I said, extremely impromptu, and we booked flights. And then what we're gonna do is fly from Miami to Chicago, and then Chicago to North Dakota. And then one thing led to the next, and we're on our way to the airport, and our flight to Chicago got delayed, which would eventually lead us to missing our flight to North Dakota. So we were already on our way to the airport. We're like, okay, we can't cancel our flight now. Like, fuck it, we're just gonna go. Since we were supposed to be flying to North Dakota, Merritt's baggage tracker had it going straight through to North Dakota. When we got to Chicago, we had to wait in this super duper long line. It was a whole process. We were like, we need to get our bag. It's supposed to be going to North Dakota right now, but we're not going to North Dakota anymore. And we ended up waiting like an hour. Thankfully, we got it. And instead, we just spent the night in Chicago, enjoyed ourselves, and then we flew straight to Salt Lake City, Utah. Utah is the other state I was forgetting. I knew I was forgetting one. So we flew in straight to Salt Lake City, Utah, and from there, we immediately started driving. We drove to the Grand Tetons, which we stayed in Jackson Hole at this hotel called the Continental, I think. Do not quote me on that because I'm not extremely positive if that is the correct hotel we stayed in, but regardless, we are staying near the Grand Tetons. Let me tell you, Wyoming is stunning. We spent our first 2 nights there. Right when we got in, it was nearing sunset, and we're like, all right, we have been flying, we have been driving, and we haven't done anything just to relax yet on our trip. So we ran to the little gondola. They were closed. We ran to the other gondola, and they're like, hey, we're doing one more ride up to the restaurant if you guys want to get dinner. So thing's like banging around. We got a last minute reservation for 8:15.
We didn't get it out of being pieced.
If you look here to your left, this thing falls out. And we drove up and had such an amazing dinner. Mwah, chef's kiss. It was absolutely delicioso. We kind of just, talked, caught up. Me and my brother, we both have very, very busy schedules of our own. He is in the music industry, so he does like a lot of photography and videography for different musicians like A$AP Ferg, Future, A$AP Rocky, Pharrell, the whole shebang. So he's always on the road. And me, on the other hand, I am, traveling, doing my videos, so we never really get time to just, meet in one place. So we just caught up, had a nice little chat, and then head down for the night because our next day was very busy. So we woke up pretty early and we hit the road once again. Obviously a road trip consists of a hell of a lot of driving. We did not anticipate how much driving it really entailed, but you know what? We listened to music, had a grand old time, and we head on into the Teton National Park. A little tidbit, we thought we could just get straight into Yellowstone National Park, but we ended up having to pay 2 entrance fees, which ended up just being a lot more expensive than it needed to be. There is another route where you can just drive up through Montana and get straight into Yellowstone without having to pay the Teton entrance, but I also do suggest it because it's a beautiful drive. Obviously, you're driving through the national forest. There's amazing pit stops along the way. One of the little viewing points we went to was this overlook over a rushing river. I got dressed into this beautiful little white silk flowy dress, and me and my brother, we stopped, flew the drone a little bit and snapped a few photos. Don't tell anyone. I later found out you can't fly drones in national parks, so my apologies. Oops. And after that little pit stop, we just kept driving on through. We came across this huge herd of bison, and I've never seen bison in person before, and I decided to fly my drone over, and they were just running, and it was so beautiful. It was right off the road, so if you're ever just driving and you see some bison, highly suggest pull over, whip out that drone if you have one. If not, you can still see them. On the opposite side of the road was the Tetons, like the Teton Mountains, and honestly, one thing that I really admire about this little road trip we did was the variety of the different environments, I guess. To one side you can see sand dunes, to the other side you can see snowy peaked mountains. It's like you're in a desert, but then you're in this winter vortex. It was really neat. As short as the trip was, we did get a lot of stuff just jam-packed into the few days that we actually had. Mind you, this is our first official day. We ended up getting into Yellowstone National Park, and we found this hike called the Fairy Falls Trail. And we did a little bit of research, and we thought we found a super secret trail that no one was gonna be on. And to our inconvenience, we found out that it was very popular. A lot of people knew about it, and it literally looked like everyone there was going to Disney World. It was as packed as Disney World. There was an absurd amount of people there, and we were like, okay, you know what, we're not gonna hike this right now. There's gonna be way too many people at the waterfall. So we kept driving. We had to get gas, so we drove straight through, and we finally hit Montana. Got a little bite to eat in Montana, so we could say that we went there. And then we head back in, and at this point, it was a little bit later in the day, and we pulled up to the Fairy Falls Trail. It still seemed like there was a lot of people there, but you could tell it definitely died down. And we head out on our hike. It is about a 2.5 mile hike to the actual waterfall itself, but along the way, you can see all the, I don't know what you call them. I want to say it's thermal pools. Obviously you can't get into them or else you will literally burn to death. But we hiked along and you could see all the thermal pools, which is super beautiful. And we kept trekking along, and about halfway into our hike, people did gear off to the left, which is a viewing point. We didn't go there. We stayed straight to head to the falls. To our surprise, there was no one else there. which was amazing for us, obviously. No one likes to go to any kind of natural beauty and have an entire city there taking photos, so we were very lucky. If you do the Fairy Falls trail hike, definitely go later on in the day or early in the morning before the crowd really gets in. But, you know, me and Merritt are from Florida. There is absolutely no altitude, no hills, nothing, so a little 2.5 mile walk, which really shouldn't have winded us, absolutely winded us. We were like panting and sweating our asses off by the time we got there, but it was so worth it. This waterfall was so big, honestly way bigger than I thought it would be when we got there. And there's this, you know, beautiful little stream, and there's also this fallen tree that you can walk over. And, you know, we stayed there for probably like 1.5 hours just taking different types of photos. I'm once again in the white dress and I'm standing in the little pool at the bottom of this waterfall, absolutely freezing. And Merritt had this vision going into the trip to get this plastic bag, like a mattress cover, and kind of like put it over me and make me look like somewhat of a ghost. I did not see the vision at all when he was explaining it to me. I was standing there and Merritt's like, all right, throw the bag on. And I'm like, do we have to? So I'm standing under this waterfall with this plastic bag over my head for, I kid you not, 30 minutes, like flopping the air, or flopping the bag in the air and trying to like make it look like I'm like flowing. I don't even know. And he was like, okay, keep doing that, keep doing that. And I'm like, Merritt, please, my feet are gonna fall off. It's so cold. So on our hike back, the sun was setting. It was very nice and refreshing. I definitely needed my inhaler by the time we got back to the car. Unfortunately, I did not have it. But we got in the car and we drove around a bit more when the sun set, and we wanted to do nighttime photography with all the stars. And we went to one of the geysers that shoots up water, and we waited there for, I kid you not, like 30 minutes. And Merritt was setting up his time lapse to get all the stars and the smoke and the water, and we missed it. We missed like the official like blow of the now I'm totally forgetting what it's called, of the geyser. He got some really cool photos. As you can see, the stars were absolutely beautiful. There was a moon out that night, which made the stars not as visible, but it was still amazing. And I ended up freezing my ass off because it gets really cold at night. So we got back in the car to head back to our hotel in the Tetons in Jacksonville. On our way back, we were listening to some old jams. I threw on my little like 2000s playlist, and we were like listening to Fergie. I don't know what I'm saying. So in reality, this trip was a 5-day trip, but we only ended up getting 2 full days to actually do things, which was unfortunate. But like I said, we did get a lot of stuff jam-packed into those 2 days. It's technically our 4th day, but officially our 2nd now. And we woke up really early and started driving back down to Salt Lake City. But something that we found out about, which we had no idea even existed, were the sand dunes. It's called St. Anthony's Sand Dunes. This place is so stunning. We tried going there the first day when we were just driving, and we realized it was way too much of a mission to actually get in there, and especially with just our rental car, we totally would have just gotten stuck in the sand, which would have been so unfortunate for the rental company and us because we'd have to pay extra fees. We ended up renting a Polaris, and we had 4 hours in the sand dunes. 9 a.m. was our call time. That's the earliest you can go. So we got in our sand dune buggy and we're ripping through these sand dunes. We're like going over the hills and, you know, doing donuts and shit. We have our little goggles on and my brother looks like an absolute buffoon. We call them little glasses, speed dealers. So we're wearing our little speed dealers and we're ripping through the sand dunes, and we're coming up on this one hill and we're like booking it. And with the sand dunes, they like top off like this, so you're going up, you can't see like how it drops, and we're going up like pedal to the fucking metal, like going for it. And I'm like, wait, Merritt, stop. He slams on the brakes and our front tires go over the little peak, and I kid you not, it's like a 90-degree drop down. Hundreds of feet, and I'm like, shit, like put it in reverse, go. So he's like putting it in reverse, pedal to the metal once again, but we're in sand and it's just spewing up sand, and I'm like, go, and we're like sinking forward. Oh my god. My life just flashed before my eyes. By the grace of God, we got out of there, but that would have been very, 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 very unfortunate. Unlucky, to say the least, if we ended up going over. We did have a few incidents, though, where we didn't calculate the drop, and we like got air and slammed down. Thankfully, we didn't flip. Like I said, my brother had this vision to do the whole plastic bag thing, and I wore this super long flowy thing that I actually got from Walmart. Who knew Walmart had such fashion? And we're walking through the sand dunes, getting a ton of cool photos of me just walking through, and you would have no idea that not even like a 30-minute drive from there was the Snow Peak Mountains. We're going through, and I don't want my like big ass chunky boots in the photos, so I take them off, and my feet are literally like sizzling. Like I'm getting like absolutely burnt alive by the sand dunes. You know, I just had to bear and grin it because we had to get the photo, you know. Do it for the photo, do it for the vine. Anyways, we're walking through and we're getting these photos and they're coming out so cool. Once again, I have to put this like bag on my head, on my whole body. And it's like a literal sauna. The entire plastic bag up covered in condensation, like with my sweat. There's sweat dripping down my face. I can't breathe. And I'm like, Mary, please hurry. I can't do this for much longer. And when I opened the plastic bag, it was like I was just hit with like the most beautiful feeling wind. But the photos did turn out really cool, so I'm not complaining. Well, I was complaining, but I'm not complaining anymore because the photos were sick. But we did have a schedule because we needed to be down in Salt Lake City, Utah to hit the Salt Flats at sunset. We ended up getting in the car and we kept driving another like 6 hours. And we got to Salt Lake City, Utah. We ordered some Subway because that was the only place we could find that was quick and easy and on the way. There's probably tons of other places, but we did not look hard enough. I'm sorry, Trevor, if you're watching this. I know how much you hate Subway. If only you were there to make us sandwiches. But you weren't, so we resorted to Subway. So we're driving down to the Salt Flats and we pull up and you can just drive your car onto the Salt Flats. And there's no speed limit on the Salt Flats. We were gonna try and max out the car, but it was a lot sketchier driving on the literal Salt Flats itself, so we didn't. You're welcome, Mom. It's as if you're on another planet. It doesn't feel real. It's weird, like you're walking and the salt, it's like hard, but it's a little squishy when you touch. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, you have to go there. There's 2 seasons for the Salt Flats. There's like a dry season and a wet season. During the wet season, there's like, I think like an inch of water along the entire Salt Flat. They call it like a mirror basically, but they have a more exciting term for it. We went during the dry season, which also was beautiful, but I definitely want to go back for the wet season because the photos from the wet season in the Salt Flats, I don't have words for it. They're super cool photos. I'll insert some photos here for examples. These are not my photos, but these are my photos. As you can tell, it's so surreal. If you do go during like the wet season or even just a few months before the dry season officially starts, if you go up into the upper right hand corner of the Salt Flats, there's this super duper big pool, and during the wet season it's so blue and you can go swimming in it and it's literally like the Dead Sea. There's so much salt you can like float on top of the water. And we went to the pool to see if it was anything like it would be in the wet season. Unfortunately, it was a little bit brown, not as big and a little bit gross looking, but we did walk into it and I kind of just like stood up and like let my like leg float up in the water that was there, and it was such a weird feeling. So I know for a fact I'm gonna go back during the wet season to actually float my entire body in there. I could have if I wanted to, but didn't have a bathing suit and I also just did not want to. It was all brown. It was not too pretty, but we did get some cool photos. There was this little like salt island in the middle of it that I stood on and did some poses. Kind of looked like one of those like a quinceañera shoot, except I didn't have like the really cool dress. I just had a little black flowy one from Walmart, obviously not the same. If you're looking for a place to do maternity photo shoots or a wedding photo shoot, by all means go here. It's so cool. After that, we kind of just wanted to relax, put down our cameras, put down our phones. Merritt set up a little time lapse. We just sat on our plastic bag. We were done with the plastic bag at this point. We did get a few photos at the Salt Flats with the plastic bag on my body. Finally, I was done wearing it. So we laid it down on the ground and me and Mare just sat there and watched the sunset and kind of just reflected on everything, and we were just talking about how blessed and how weird and amazing life is. Not to get all too sentimental and deep, but it was a really nice moment, especially since we were flying out the next day. So, you know, it was a short little impromptu trip. It was only 2 days. Well, it was 5 days, but 2 days of actual adventuring. I'm very excited for our next trip. We're definitely gonna plan something a little bit more out there. You know, with COVID finally like coming to an end, we didn't want to do anything too crazy, so we just stayed in the States, you know, road trip, kind of stayed away from everyone. And since we were right next to Nevada, we decided just to drive 10 minutes further and went into Nevada, got some gas. How exciting is that? Now on to our last day, our travel day back home, and oh my Lanta, this one was probably one of the most stressful travel days of my life. We got to the airport with our rental car and we're returning it, and there was still like salt kind of like in the tire area. Little did we know that's considered off-roading and there's an off-roading fee, so we had to pay an extra fee because we had salt on our car. So if you do go to the salt flats and you do have a rental car, make sure to clean it before you return it or else you will get charged. So since the rental car took some time, it did make us a little bit rushed getting to our gate, but we did get there. Lucky us, our flight was delayed. And as you know, we have a connecting flight. It wasn't just a straight through flight from Salt Lake City back to Miami. We did have a connecting flight, which means we were gonna be late for our connecting flight. Super stressful. We got delayed by, I don't even know how long. I think it was like maybe like an hour that it got delayed, so it wasn't too bad, but we knew we would be super rushed getting to our next destination, which was in Texas. We get on the flight, we land, and I think it was Dallas. We flew into Dallas. If you do not know the Dallas airport, it is huge, and we had to sprint across like 3 terminals. Not actually, but I'm being super dramatic, but we had to sprint to get to our next gate, and we got there right at the nick of time. But then that flight got delayed, not 1 hour, but like 4 hours. So our flight was supposed to be at like 9:30, didn't even end up taking off until 12:15 at night. And there was a small chance that they were gonna cancel it because they didn't have a flight crew ready for us. You know, God was on our side and got on the flight, and I got back to Miami at 3:15 a.m. Had to call an Uber and get back home, and you're like, oh, finally, Marla, you get to go to sleep. No, I didn't, because I had a 7 a.m. flight to Boston to see Trevor. I had to get back home, completely unpack my bag, take a shower, completely repack my bag for Boston, and then get back in an Uber to be back at the airport by 5:30 to check my bag, because my flight was at 7, but they started boarding at 5:20 or 5:30, and you can't check your bag unless you're there 40 minutes to boarding time. So I got there right on time. They almost didn't take my bag, but I got through, thankfully. Landed in Boston around 10, and then went straight to his friend's house, and I literally did not go to sleep until like 4 a.m. So I basically did not sleep for 48 hours. Kind of went a little bit cuckoo, a little bit insane. Loss of sleep does that to you. After an extremely busy and hectic and a lot of driving and a lot of flying, finally had an amazing week. So that's my rundown of the trip. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed. I am thinking of making like a little website and maybe putting like a little trip itinerary. I don't know. That's something me and my brother are talking about. Maybe doing a podcast or making little trip itineraries of places we've gone, things to go see, things to do, not to do, so you don't make the same mistakes as us. Definitely do not plan a trip, like a road trip to these places we went to without preparation. As amazing and as fun as it was definitely a little hectic trying to shove it all into 2 days. I would definitely give yourself a little bit more time than we did. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. I have some super duper 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 fun stuff planned for these next few months, like I said, so stay tuned. I'm so sorry about the inconsistency. I'm not gonna promise it because I've done that literally every time I film a video. I'm like, I promise I'll be more consistent, but I promise I'll try, which I know I've said that too and I haven't done. So I love you all. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Much love, peace, and blessings. Mwah.